So this final part of the tutorial series is going to be on finishing up the materials and then taking this and exporting it for Second Life. One of the things about exporting this is that if you were to export each one of these pieces differently, they're going to be very low land impact. This one foliage piece over here will be half a land impact. This one will be half. The pot will be half. The flowers will be half. And if you don't combine all these into one object, then you've got half plus half plus half plus half, and so on. If you were to combine all of this, chances are your land impact is going to be a lot lower. The whole thing together will probably be just one. So when you're joining things together, what you really want to be aware of is the materials, because each object can only have 8 materials. We've given materials to things like the pot and to the dirt, and we gave a material to, I think we gave a material to some of the flower pieces. It doesn't matter, because at this point I'm going to join this all together, so I'm going to hit A for all, Control J for join, and then I'm going to use my set origin to geometry just because it makes it nice and clean. And I'm going to use Control plus A one last final time and apply the rotation and scale. Actually, I'm going to apply that after I check the scale. So let me do Shift plus A and add a mesh cube. So this cube here is 2 meters by 2 by 2. So that's kind of big for a little potted plant. Granted, we might put more in here if we were actually going to be using this in Second Life, but as it is, it's a little big. So I'm just going to select it all, hit S, and scale it down some. Let me go ahead and get rid of this box now. We don't need that. I just wanted to see kind of how big my object was. Line it up a little bit. Only because I like to. It's not important. Alright, now I'm going to put the whole thing in edit mode and deselect everything. And this is where I'm going to start picking out my materials. As you can see, when I join all of this, all the materials that I've previously made that are associated with any parts of this object show up for us at the same time. I have my dirt, and I have my pottery, and I have flower petal. I don't exactly remember what was assigned to the flower petal, so I have this button down here for select. When I click that, it selects everything associated with it. And do you see what a mess we have? This wasn't actually, this didn't actually have a material on it before, so it grabbed its material from the flowers here. At the beginning, if you remember, when I first made the material for the dirt here in the pot, and we selected a color for it, the entire pot turned that color. And that's because when you have an object that you are putting a material on, you cannot put it on only part of an object. The first material covers the entire object. You can then select the rest of the object and continue adding materials or changing the materials. But every object has to have a material going over all of it, not partially. So since these little foliage pieces, for example, didn't have a material, when they were joined to pieces that did have a material, they got whatever material the other pieces had. So this is where we have to work it a little bit and give these materials the way that we really want them to be. I'm going to take the flower petal and I'm just going to delete it. You cannot delete it in edit mode. So I'm going back into object mode. I don't think you can. Nope, you can't. Just make sure there. So object mode, and then flower petal, I'm going to delete it. I'm going to go ahead and delete the bulb as well because I know that that happens to be messed up. Going back into edit mode, I'm going to start with my foliage. I want this to be able to hold two different types of greenery. Maybe I'll want an ivy-ish type or two different fern types. Doesn't matter, but I want to keep the versatility of having choices. So I'm going to do different materials for both of them. I'm going to turn occlude off, which means I can work through my mesh. I can see through it, I can work through it. I'm going to hover this vertex and hit L, and that island selects one of them. You have to also remember when we made this foliage piece, after it was done, and we knew that the bottom was facing invisible, we made a second one exactly like it with duplicate, and we reversed the normals. So we have to select the bottom as well. So just hitting L again selects that one. I'm going to go ahead and hit the plus button over here in the Materials tab. I'm going to click on the New, and I'm going to change the name right away to Foliage, and I'm going to have it as 1. You see, as soon as you change the name here, it changes up there. Again, you must hit the Assign button. If you don't hit Assign, this here doesn't get assigned to this material. This also has to be fully selected like we talked about before as well, the UVs in here. With that material done, you can see it's changed a little bit. I'm going to go in here and hit L. I'm going to go underneath and hit L, make sure that I get them both. Hit the plus button, hit New, and rename this to Foliage 2, and hit my Enter key, and then click Assign. So now this has a material of its own on there. So far we've got 4 materials. I need a material for this flower on the top here, a material for the other flower head. I need a material for the leaves and a material for the stems. So we hit 8 materials perfectly. Let me go ahead and deselect everything. Let me just make sure. Okay. I'm going to hit L, just hovering over each one of the leaves, and it's selecting it for me. I love Island Select. It makes easy work out of selecting something like this. Can you imagine trying to cam around and edge loops and shift right clicking to get all those flowers selected? L makes easy work of it, and it's nice that it works in our UV editor as well. So with all of these selected, I'm going to go ahead and hit A to deselect them and A to reselect them just to make sure they're all selected. It's hard to see sometimes when your UVs are laying on top of each other if the ones underneath are selected as well. I'm going to hit my plus button, New, change the material name to Leaves. Enter to confirm the name change, and Assign to make sure it's associated with those. You saw when we did the unwrapping, and we shifted the unwrapping around to fit onto our little flower petals, that we had the bulb on there as well, and it worked out fine. So we're going to keep those the same material. So here I'm going to hit A to deselect everything, and whoops, I'm going to hit L again to get the one flower. Sometimes with your occlude turned off, because we can work through the mesh, it's really easy to select things that we didn't quite mean to. So this is going to be the small flower. Again, I'm going to hit A in here to select it all, plus, New, rename, and I'll put SM, and then flower. Enter key to confirm it. And look, I thought I did something a little bit odd there. I didn't get the beginning of this deleted. Okay, enter again, and now I'm going to assign it. I will do the same thing. So A to deselect and L all the way around and the top. Come over here, use A to deselect, A to reselect, making sure it's all done or all included. Plus button, new, rename it to large flower and enter key. Again, assign. The last thing that we have to do are the stems. So A to deselect everything, L for one stem, L for the other. In this window, A and A. And now a new one, new material. And we're going to call this stems. And assign it. So that's it for the materials. They are all done. They are all assigned. And if you want to, what we can do now is we can bring in the textures again that we're going to be using for each of these materials, and we can see how that's working out for us. So I'm going to go ahead and hit A to deselect everything. We can go down in a row. So if we hit the dirt, we hit select. There's our layout for it. And this is big. I can scale this down like this. Grab it and move it over. Since it's its own face, we don't have to worry about anything. We can set repeats in Second Life so easily. We don't need to have it going outside of the boundaries here in order to do that. So I'm going to drag in my dirt texture, and it is not, oh, you know why it's not showing? Because I have to tell Blender in the viewport shading to show me the textures on the actual objects. So there we go. Don't worry about the pinks. That right now means that we have a material on these, but there's no image associated with them. So, or that the image that was associated with them is no longer an active image inside of Blender. So, I had this scaled up before so we could see those repeats in the actual model, but we don't have to see them. We just want to know that we have the ability to change them in Second Life. I'm going to go ahead and deselect this selection now in my Materials tab. It makes it easy. Or we can still hit A to deselect everything here. But let me show you. It is selected, and choosing this deselects that material, which is kind of nice because if we had all of this selected, we could just say hit leaves and deselect those. Just makes easy work to have an extra way of doing stuff. So the pottery, I'm going to click on and choose select. And I'm going to go ahead and, do you see this? I have these here. This is foliage number, let's see, foliage number 1 is this one. And foliage number 2 did not get assigned. I guess I did not assign it like I told you to do. So let me go ahead and foliage 2 is selected and click assign. Double click on that to make sure. Alright, so deselect everything. Pottery, select. There we go. I need to select all of it if I want it to be associated with the image. Again, this is its own material. We don't have to have it this big. We had it this big while we were making it so that we could see the repeats. So let me put that in there. And now we can see the repeats on there. We don't need to have those repeats set when we export this. Like I said, we can do that inside of Second Life. So let's just scale that down and grab it and just kind of get it placed a little bit better. There we go. Looks a little odd like that, doesn't it? All right. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose foliage 1. So foliage 1, select, and I'm going to bring in my texture. There we go. Let me bring in the other one. Let's see if it works any better. No, that's the one. Let's see. I'm not exactly sure why this one is showing up there. It's not a big deal. It's not going to show up inside of Second Life, but it is a little strange that it's showing up. So foliage 2, select all of it in this window, and bring the texture in again. There we go. All right. Just gives us an idea of what we're working with. Let's go ahead and deselect everything. Leaves, select, and we'll bring the leaves in. There we go. These are a little off. I wonder if this is the wrong set of leaves. Nope, it's the right set. It is the wrong set. Where are my other leaves at? Let's try these ones. Those are the right ones. There we go. Remember when I told you about this flower? We had actually created it for one of the flower petals, and I said that if you wanted to put a different flower petal, a texture on a second flower, you had to kind of reshape the unwrapping. So that's what I did with these. Let me go ahead and deselect everything. Grab the small flowers and select it. And this one is actually the purple. So let's pull in the purple texture here if I can find it. There we go. Looks good. Let's do the large flower. And the large flower is the pink one. That's looking good. Deselect everything. We're going to do the stems. Select. And remember, this image is the one that we got creative with. We actually pulled in an image of floral tape. So let me go ahead and bring that back in. And there we go. Now we've got our little floral tape texture on there. Alright, so guess what? It is all done. That is our little plant, and again, being able to have the choice to reset the scale on a couple of these textures makes it look much better. I am going to go ahead and export this as one item, so file, and I'm going to do export to Collada. When it pops up, I'll be able to name it, so give me 1 second. Okay, so there we go. It's named Plant Pottery 3 because this is my third Blender file. That's what it happens to be saved as. So it's using that name to save it. And let me go ahead and hit export. The next portion of this will be me bringing it into Second Life and texturing it for you. Stay tuned.